You're listening to What It's Like with Luce, a podcast highlighting ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm your host Lucy Norris, and on today's episode, I'm chatting to an international DJ and Tomorrowland local. His story starts after a promising career in skateboarding didn't work out following an injury. Losing sponsorship and any chance of getting back on the board, the young creative quickly found his other love, music. Playing in his first club at just 14 years old, he quickly dominated the Antwerp scene and made a name for himself. Securing regular club spots and festival gigs, it was a performance in Valencia that really got people talking. Making connections there took him on an adventure to India, where he found himself playing on the main stage of Sunburn Festival and ultimately touring the rest of Asia. Since 2012, he has been a local at Tomorrowland, and today he joins me to share what the life of a DJ is really like, the ups and downs of one of the world's most glamorous careers, the effects of coronavirus on the entertainment industry, and how he found his unique sound in a saturated market. From Antwerp, Belgium, here's what it's like to be DJ Makasi. Before we get stuck into the episode, I just wanted to say that if there is a drop in sound quality throughout, I'm very sorry, but in respect of social distancing during COVID-19, I've had to record episodes remotely. In this challenging time, we're all just trying our best, so I really hope everyone is staying safe and that you enjoy the episode. So I think to start off, it'd be really interesting to chat a little bit about what it was like for you growing up. I think you're from Antwerp, is that right?
Yes, that's right. I started with a loving family, although my parents were divorced when I was 2 years young. Um, I did so many sports, and pretty much I was kind of good in all of the sports I was doing. Um, but there was always something missing, even if it was basketball or baseball or taekwondo. It was like I had to. There was always something missing, and I couldn't really figure out what. Then I started skateboarding when I was, I think when I was like 12 years young. No, 10 years. Sorry. I started skateboarding when I was 9 years old, I think. Combining it with breakdancing.
Oh.
And then with the breakdancing, with hip hop, we had to perform and also with skateboarding. So I became like a super good skateboarder and I became a super good hip hop breakdancer at a young age, like 10, 9 years old. Um, so we were doing performances. I got a sponsor deal with skateboarding. The thing is, with breakdancing, I didn't earn anything, and with skateboarding, I got a bit of a return because I got a sponsor deal, and everybody wanted to give me like clothes and represent the brand they were working with. So I didn't break something, but I stretched something with my legs with breakdancing. So I focused on skateboarding. Out of nowhere, like my oldest sister, she was always going to these parties, and then she would come back and tell, like at the dinner table, "Wow, yesterday the DJ played that song, this and that." So I was like super curious what was going on in the club scene. Um, so I started being really interested and asking questions like, "What is the DJ doing? How does the DJ have so much influence, and how the crowd reacts?" So my sister introduced me to a DJ just to let me know like how it feels to play with the records. And actually, when the first time I put my hand on the record, it was like, wow, magic! This is what I want to do. So then I had like skateboarding and DJing, but then my neighbor had a party, and I said like, "Oh, we heard you're a DJ because of course I play a lot of music and it's really loud." So he gave me my first booking, and I got like I don't know how much it was, like 25 or 50 euros. I'm not sure, but like a whole night I played at the birthday party of the neighbors, and I was like, "Wow, you can really make money with this." So it wasn't about the money, but it was like, okay, so this is actually a career that could be something bigger than just enjoying yourself. So I kind of made the switch. So I stopped skateboarding. I completely focused on music. Um, my school was the worst. So I didn't want to go to school anymore. The only thing that I wanted was music and making music and playing at at clubs, small clubs that is. And yeah, from there on, like from when I was 13, 14, 14 was when I was playing at my first club. Um, so pretty young, and now I'm 29 and I'm still doing it.
Yeah, that's mad that you were so young when you played your first set in a club
Exactly.
because you're not even allowed to go into a club at 14. So that's
I was definitely the youngest. I was looking up to everybody. So yeah, they sneak me in.
and then how do you think you did transform that early passion into such a successful career?
So what definitely helped is I was always amongst like the people in Antwerp back then, who were also passionate about music, and that was pretty much all we did, music. And I was running around these circles. So at a very young age, I knew pretty much the right people, like the guys that were throwing events, the guys that were um, doing like these weekly parties, some other big DJs, and I always looked up to them, like in a very respectful way. And I was in the studio just chilling with them, like with the local rappers. So I created like a big network of people, where I was always involved. And this evolved like during how the older I get. When I had the chance of like playing more legally, like 16, 17 in the clubs, you know all the right people, and people will come to me like, oh yeah, you're the DJ, we'll book you. And I think when I was 16 or 17, I started throwing my own parties, and they were like a big, big, big success. These were like the best parties in Belgium, pretty much. The concept was really simple. Um, the concept was a dance party, like we do like a dance contest. All these professional dancers, they subscribed, and they were a bit like, yes, some of them were super good, and the other ones were really sucky. But in the end, we got like the finest dancers in Belgium going at these parties. So it was like a perfect mix of the right amount of girls, the right amount of guys. It was really good music, and that was like the perfect formula to get the club always packed. So I think that really helped me as well.
Sounds like you had the most fun kind of teenage years ever. I'm very jealous. But do you remember your first gig outside of Belgium?
The first gig, I did a couple, but let me tell you, the one in Valencia was definitely the one that changed everything. So not sure how old I was, like 18, 19, no, maybe 20. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. Um, Back then I started having a manager, and he said like, yo, I got this booking for you. It's in Valencia. I think it was on a Sunday, and Friday and Saturday I was playing in Belgium. Back then I was doing like 3 gigs a night. So maybe in total like 6, 7 in a week. And I had to fly to Valencia straight from the club. That was my first really outside of Belgium experience. I came literally from the airport to the festival. I started playing, and everybody loved it. That was with the big guys. They're also in Valencia, some big Spanish names. I think Hardwell as well. And I was doing like the pre-show of it. And there was one guy. It was an Indian guy, and he said like, "Whoa, I like you. I'm gonna work with you. I'm gonna bring you to India." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Everybody says this, you know. But 6 months later, he got me to India, and that's really, really like started to kick off the whole career.
How did you go about making yourself stand out as a DJ? Maybe how was it that you cultivated your sound, or where did you get your inspiration from to make you different?
Um, I think back when I started, I was always like a little bit different because I started in the urban scene, and I was always the one DJ that would go up tempo and play like some electro or house tracks. Um, and everybody back then, it was really like you're or a hip hop R&B DJ or you're like a house DJ. And I wanted to be like that mix in the middle, but not everybody does it. So I soon figured out I couldn't do that couldn't be the thing that defined me as a DJ or like make me special. So I started being like an entertainer, and I started using the mic a lot. I would go up on the podium and start stage diving. I would do sit downs, but back then it was like super special. You know, I heard, I think it was Martin Solveig who did like a huge sit down here in Antwerp. I was like, wow, I got to do this as well. So the same festival, I did the same sit down, and oh, this really works. So I really started using those powers, let's say, to define myself. But I always had this gimmick. I would put on like a swimming trousers, and then I would go up to the stage. I would undress myself. I had my trousers on, and I would jump in the crowd as a stage dive. And this is what really attracted the promoters. Like, well, we need to get this guy because he knows how to make a party.
And so then after Valencia, you said that was kind of the
Yeah.
turning point for your whole career. What happened next?
Um, I went to India, and I think alone in that year, I went like 4 times. But the first time in India was pretty special because I arrived in Bangalore. From Bangalore, I went to Delhi. From Delhi to Mumbai, and then the promoter said like, "I might get you like a really cool booking." I was like, "What is it?" It is Sunburn, and Sunburn is like the biggest festival in India, and maybe one of the biggest in Asia. So like, okay, cool, let's bring it. But that was in Goa. I don't know if you know Goa, but Goa is like the everybody talks about Goa. Goa is like the Hamptons of New York or the Miami of the East Coast. Um, okay, we went to Goa. I wasn't booked, and suddenly you say like, okay, I get you the main slot. At a slot at 6 or 7 p.m. at the main stage. But the main stage, it's insane. Like if you Google it, it's like super big. I think 60,000 people are watching it. India really definitely helped me a lot.
But since 2012, you've been a local at Tomorrowland.
Yes, the first time was 2012, and I played every year. So yeah, you can call me a local.
How did you get that? Was that kind of on the back of India that you got that, or how did that happen?
No, I think it was before. So my manager back then, he had like a party concept, and he had an organization. It's called Blue Flame, and Blue Flame was like a collective of DJs, and I was one of his newest DJ. Um, that went on for like 2 years, I think, and then afterwards he put me on the Afrojack stage. He put me on like really the biggest stage in Tomorrowland, and you become part of like a family. You're from Antwerp. You start knowing the owners, start partying with them. Um, you know like all the DJs, and yeah, it's like every year, like whatever year it was, I never knew I was gonna get booked again, but suddenly I would get an email like, "Hey, we would like to book you." So it's not that I'm a resident, but I played from 2012 till now every year. Like even this year, I got booked 2 times. Of course, with all the Corona thing, it
Mm.
got canceled. Yeah, I'm there every year, so I'm very fortunate that I can be part of this crazy experience.
Can you describe the feeling that you get when you perform on such massive, colossal stages like Tomorrowland or the festival in India?
It's it's different. So you could play at smaller clubs, and it could give you like a super good feeling because it's very intimate. But on the big stage, you know what I always thought? I thought like the DJs on the big stages just have to play the hits and it'll work, which is kind of true, but they're also very critical. So if you perform like a really good set, so many more people have seen it, and you get so much more respect, or you get mails on Twitter, and you actually know you're doing a good job. The feeling is it's I always try to make this little cocoon that I'm in, and yeah, sometimes I look up like, oh shit, 10,000s of people are watching me right now. It's a crazy feeling. It's hard to describe, but it gives you a lot of energy, I guess.
I can only imagine it must just be the craziest thing to kind of think where you came from at such a young age to
Exactly.
then just a few years later, because I feel like you did this very quickly, to be standing on some of the biggest stages in the world. It must feel so amazing.
It is. It's super amazing, and I'm very fortunate that I can live this life. But it's also very stressing because there's with every upside there's a downside, and there's a lot of stress on you because even now this is probably our sector together with tourism is the worst sector to be in right now with the corona crisis. Um, so you don't really know what's gonna happen. So it's like a very risk. It's like up and down, and still nobody knows where it's going to be next year or the year after. But yeah, it's really a fun. It's good to be a DJ, but also very stressy. That's kind of.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine. And kind of touching on stress there a little bit, as we said already, you were so young when you started this career and when you made it as well. So, did you ever have moments where you questioned whether or not this is something you wanted to do or could handle?
Um, I would also put like markers. So when I was, I don't know, like 16, I was like, okay, when I'm 20 or 21, I want to be there. When I'm 25, I always put like new goals. And so far, my goals always succeeded. I actually never really saw past the age I was now, but in some way, I'm still going up. So that's a good thing. And I think as long as I'm going up, I'm good. And we'll go from there. It's like I said, YOLO, or
Yeah.
just live your life and then see where it ends up. That's what I'm pretty much doing now.
Do you have a favorite performance that you've ever done or a favorite person that you've worked with?
I got a couple of favorite performances each year. It's more like the experience of a whole tour. So the tour I was talking to you about in Asia, I was doing Kuala Lumpur, in India, Thailand. Like it was 3 or 4 weeks that I was touring, and that was pretty much one of the best tours I did. Um, because every year changes, and also music wise. So imagine like 10 years ago, the drops would be so much different than the drops are now. We kind of switch with the EDM sound. Sometimes it's more urban, sometimes it's more trappy, sometimes like a really progressive. And that makes it also interesting for me that I can have that diversity, going up and down. And I like to switch sounds and genres as much as I can in 1 hour or the hour that I'm performing. Um, Sometimes, that's really funny. So sometimes you could DJ like do a back to back with one of your heroes, and then you're like, hmm, I'm actually better than him, or I would do it like totally different. And sometimes you would DJ with, I don't know, just like a cool random guy, and he would amaze me like with the music that he chooses or the mixes that he does. So I have a couple of local artists that I really love to play with, but it depends on their mood. I don't know, like with the really big DJs, a lot of them are producers, and I'm a DJ. So they would only play like their style and their kind of music, and I would be like the DJ guy. But I have a lot of, like, for instance, DJ AM or DJ Vice. Those are DJs from America. Those are really guys that I look up to. But they're more club DJs than festival DJs or producers.
Do you have a preference between playing in clubs or festivals?
I needed both. I mean, festival is like the experience which is super cool. But at clubs, it's so intimate. Like crowds surrounded around you, like super intimate. And that's what I've been doing all my life. Like DJing in a club, all the eyes on you. Um, and a festival is more like show off what you got, show off what you got, what you learned, and put it all in one set and give it to the people. So you really needed both to keep yourself focused and keep yourself up there.
And I think the life of a DJ, it's kind of one of those things where it looks like a fairy tale from the outside all the time. You guys are always traveling and partying, and it just looks like so much fun. I'm sure it's not always, but what is traveling on that circuit really like?
Good example. A couple of years ago, I had to like again a big Asian tour, and I asked my best friend, who's also he's a club owner, and I asked my best friend like, hey, like I'm switching, I'm in between labels, managements. Do you want to be my tour manager? Like just travel the whole of Asia. I think it was 2 weeks as well, or 3 weeks. And the first few days, it was super fun. He was amazed because he never got in Asia. We went to the Great Wall of China. We all did the fun stuff. Um, the funny thing is when you're traveling as a DJ, everybody wants to get you drunk in their city. So you end up in somewhere in China, like, oh, your first time in China, drink with us. And then the next time the day after you fly into Thailand, oh, first time in Thailand, you got to drink. But what they don't realize is every time you're doing it, it's like every day you're in a new city and every day you want to get you drunk. So if you don't get a hold of yourself, like control yourself, it's so easy to get lost in the whole um, DJ live and experience because you have to get up really early to catch a plane. You have to there's barely any sleep, and you have to be focused to play the best set ever every day, day after day. And there was a point like my best friend he couldn't handle it anymore. He had a really big fight, and and that's when I think he realized it, and me too, that it's not for everybody. And I think he had a really cool experience, but I think he's happy to just be here on his club, and he's really good at it. And I'm used to that life, but it's not for everybody, for sure. It's very stressy.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of like Instagram or something. People just see the highlight reel, but they don't actually think about the
Exactly.
fact that you travel and you go out and you party, but you have to wake up the next day and work.
No, like for instance, like the influencers, the crowd only sees a picture and it's like, oh, you just have to put on a picture, but the amount of work that is put in that picture, getting all these clients, getting all these sponsors, it's like even maybe tougher than a normal job. So yeah, definitely cheers to them.
And what does a normal working day look like for you?
Okay, so the typical thing is, I would work on music pretty much like during the whole week. I have a radio show that airs in Mexico, and Belgium and Spain, and more are coming. A lot of radio shows online as well, but it's one show that I'm doing every week. So that's a big focus. Um, then it's calling with people all around the world, trying to do collaborations, putting music out, working on new ideas, creating new concepts, and that's pretty much like what we're doing the whole week is meetings, maintaining the contacts you have, and when I'm not touring, I would play like 3 or 4 times a week here in Belgium or like Belgium, Netherlands, and then when I'm touring, it's I'm all over the world. So that's pretty much it. Yeah. It sounds not that much, but it's a lot.
No, it sounds like a lot.
You don't have the hours. You don't have the 9 to 5 p.m. hours. So it's you create your own hours, and you're dealing with a world organization that is awake on different hours. So
If you had to pick the best thing and then the worst thing about being a DJ, what would they be?
the best thing is traveling the world, surrounding your friends, and um, experiencing so many cool things around the world. Um, Food, I love to eat foreign food, local foreign food. The worst thing is the uncertainty, like this Corona thing, or you never know what will happen next week or next month. I think a lot of actors struggle with it as well. I think the whole entertainment industry struggles with it because you don't have certainty because it can all be over the next day if you say something wrong to the media or if you break, I don't know, if you're your own boss. So it's very insecure.
It's very clear to anyone listening how much success you've already had in your life, and you said you're only 29, so that's crazy to me. Do you have a personal definition of what success is to you?
No, I'm still trying to figure it out, but I think I don't consider myself successful because for me, I put some standards and goals where I'm not at yet. I think that makes you a bit more like aiming to be successful makes you successful. You try to be cool and nice to everybody. And I think now we're in a like definitely me. Their generation coming, Generation Z, and younger even, and you have to keep that. y y I want to know what you guys are thinking right now. Like what kind of music you're listening to now. So you always have to adapt yourself to the next big thing. So a couple of years ago, it was the rise of TikTok, and I mean, I think Drake is a really good example of how to be successful and how he connects with the youth.
If I could put your 10-year-old self in front of you now, having been through
everything that you've been through, all of the success you've had, the mad experiences, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give your 10-year-old self moving forward in life?
Go to music school.
Oh.
My mom and dad, they always suggested I would go to music school, but I always said, no, no, it's stupid. I don't wanna. But now, like, I'm learning the piano now. I'm really learning the basic. But that's one of the biggest things, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you so much to Makasi for coming on to share his story, and to you for listening. And as always, please rate, share, subscribe, and leave a comment if you like what you hear. And don't forget to follow at What It's Like Pod on Instagram and Facebook. To listen to Makasi's music and find out more about his work, visit the links provided in the show notes. I'll be back next week with more inspiring stories, but for now, this has been What It's Like with Luce.